the Republic of Korea. The Foreign Minister and I also think it's important to stay absolutely focused on our shared goal of a peaceful Korean peninsula, free of nuclear weapons. And we agree that improved relations between North and South would ultimately help to move us towards that goal.
South Korea said six-party talks with North Korea, Japan, the U.S., China, and Russia were still useful in urging Pyongyang to end its nuclear program.
The six-party talks is still a very useful tool to implement, to actually make efforts towards the denuclearization of the North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Even though this is a very difficult task, we believe that with China and with many members of the six-party talks, we should continue these efforts with patience.
As North Korea's key ally, China has expressed concern.
外交部副部长张业绥
Foreign Ministry spokesman Hong Lei said maintaining peace and stability on the Korean peninsula and denuclearization is in the interests of all parties, calling for calm and urging the North to refrain from provocative actions. Pyongyang angered the international community in February following its third atomic test. Arthur Ricchiola, ATV News.
And still ahead on ATV's main news tonight, UN adopts first ever global arms trade treaty despite protests by North Korea and Iran.
Kobe Bryant helps LA Lakers beat Dallas Mavericks to take one step closer to NBA playoffs.
Singing sensation Francis Yip teamed up with the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra to give you the most unforgettable performance ever. So many classic Cantonese pop songs that will once again melt your heart. Enjoy the special holiday with HKPO and Francis Yip Diva, tonight at 9.
They are considered the most creative generation in Taiwan, but society labels them as the strawberry generation, which can only flourish in a safe environment. So are these young entrepreneurs strong enough to revolutionize Taiwan? All about documentary Asian Century, Thursday night at 10:05. Be cool. Keep updated with the international music scene. Warner Music Power Station, Thursday night at 10. What happens now could be prevented in the future. What was impossible yesterday might become possible tomorrow. Let's find out how science makes our world a better place. Tomorrow Today, Saturday night at 7.
A special skill that has been passed from generation to generation. The princess might be the last to tell her tribe's authentic story. And the only person who can save the dying business. A Weaver's Tale, tonight at 8.
We take lifts and escalators every day and expect their safety to be improved continuously. The new Lifts and Escalators Ordinance is now in force. The responsible persons must ensure that their lifts and escalators are safe and repaired properly. The new use permit facilitates public surveillance. The registration regime for personnel engaged in lift and escalator works has also been introduced to further enhance public safety.
The United Nations has overwhelmingly adopted its first ever global arms trade treaty, sought for more than a decade to try to keep illicit weapons out of the wrong hands.
A handful of countries, including North Korea, oppose the measures, warning that the treaty's provisions could be applied selectively for political purposes. For more than a decade, activists and diplomats have been pushing for international rules to regulate the trade in conventional weapons. Today, they succeeded on getting the United Nations General Assembly to pass a historic treaty to control the multi-billion-dollar international arms trade.
Draft Resolution A/67/L58 is adopted.
The landmark deal to regulate the global arms trade and to keep illicit weapons out of the hands of terrorists, insurgent fighters and organised crime was approved by a vote of 154 to 3 with 23 abstentions. Iran, North Korea and Syria last week prevented a treaty drafting conference at the UN headquarters from reaching the required consensus to adopt the treaty. That left delegations which support it with no choice but to turn to a General Assembly vote to adopt it. The international treaty prohibits states from exporting conventional weapons in violation of arms embargoes or weapons that could be used for acts of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes or terrorism.
The final draft text is a compromise text which represents the broadest possible input of delegations. That text would make a difference to the broadest range of stakeholders. It would establish new common international standards in the conventional arms trade. It would also establish a forum, the Conference of States Parties, for transparency and accountability. That text would also make an important difference by reducing human suffering and saving lives.
China and Russia, two of the world's major arms producers, were among those who abstained from the vote. North Korea objected against the treaty.
DPRK shares the view that it is imbalanced. And under the current text, whose interest is best addressed? The answer is very clear. It is in the interest of the exporters. There is no balance in the interest of the exporters and importers.
The Global Arms Treaty will be open for signature on the 3rd of June and will enter into force 90 days after the 50th signatory ratifies it.
Casino mogul Sheldon Adelson is facing a $328 million damages claim in a lawsuit triggered by a Hong Kong businessman who says he hasn't been paid for helping Las Vegas Sands win its Macau gaming license.
But first, local property transactions dropped by almost 30% last month compared to sales recorded in February. Local sale and purchase agreements for residential and commercial units took a tumble last month. That's according to the Land Registry, which received 6,841 sale and purchase agreements for registration in March, a 29.1% drop compared with February and a 52.2% decline from the same period last year. The bulk of these agreements were for residential units, which also saw transactions drop by 28.1% last month compared to February. Preparations are underway for the government's second stage of opening up most of the restricted area along Hong Kong's land border for development. The frontier closed area, which once measured 2,800 hectares, was declared a buffer security zone in 1951. Since the 1960s, it has been a defense against illegal immigration, which reached its height when hundreds of thousands of people tried to cross the border into Hong Kong to escape the Cultural Revolution on the mainland. The second stage will begin in June. It's expected to release around 710 hectares of land, bringing the total amount of land to be freed up from the restricted zone to 1,450 hectares. Casino mogul Sheldon Adelson is squaring off for the second time with a Hong Kong businessman who says he's owed $328 million for helping Las Vegas Sands win a gambling license in Macau. Businessman Richard Sun claims he was hired by the casino giant to help build relationships with the central government in 2001 and should be compensated for his work. A jury had decided in Sun's favor in 2008, but the Nevada Supreme Court overturned that judgment 2 years later. The second trial will begin in the Clark County Court later today.
It's time for sports with Britain Clenich.
So, what's been happening in football, Brit?
Well, we start with some Champions League news tonight. Bayern Munich were in a league of their own against Juventus in the quarter-finals, sealing a 2-0 victory. And the stakes are high for Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain, who were held to a draw. Barcelona are on track to clinch a 6th Champions League trophy despite last night's 2-2 draw to Paris Saint-Germain in the French capital. The first leg quarter-final had hearts racing, with the hosts only managing to level the scoreboard in the dying moments of the match through Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
The performance was really good. I said because was not just defensive play. I think that we tried to play. We played really well the first 30 minutes.
PSG's famous new recruit David Beckham lasted for 70 minutes of the match. It's been 3 years since the 37-year-old former England captain competed in Europe's top football tournament.
And we have to be ready to play football because they play football beautifully. So I think that we played really well tonight, and we have to go there with the confidence to win the game.
The stalemate in Paris means both sides have everything to play for in the return fixture at Camp Nou.
In the NBA, LA Lakers fans are celebrating after the West Coast team won a critical game against the Dallas Mavericks last night.
And can he be effective in that post area?
The Los Angeles Galaxy are a step closer to reaching the NBA playoffs. That's after they downed the Dallas Mavericks 101-81 at home to move into an overall tie with Utah Jazz for the last remaining playoff position in the Western Conference. The Mavericks trailed 55-40 in the first half. They managed to find some ground when O.J. Mayo scored a three-pointer towards the end of the third quarter.
Kamen couldn't make it go. Mavericks' first offensive rebound resulting in a long
But the Lakers made sure their comeback was short-lived, racing to a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter.
Well, they're trying to get Gasol involved here.
They kept their opponents at bay for the rest of the match, surging to a 20-point victory. The spotlight was on Kobe Bryant, who scored 23 points for the Lakers, including 11 rebounds and 11 assists. Dwight Howard notched up 23 points and 12 rebounds, while Pau Gasol clinched 14 points and 10 rebounds on the night, which also saw the Lakers retire three-time champion Shaquille O'Neal's famous number 34 jersey. Mavericks' Dirk Nowitzki had a lackluster night by his standards, letting down his fans with just 11 points after missing two crucial free throws late in the fourth quarter. The result is a huge blow to the Mavericks, who are now lagging behind the Lakers and Utah Jazz, with only 8 games remaining this season.
A look at the weather before we leave you. It was cloudy with occasional rain today. Temperatures ranged from 18.2 to 20 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 86 and 95%. Winds were strong coming in from the east. Looking at the ultraviolet reading, the maximum recorded for the day was 3. Tomorrow's UV index will be around 4. Let's take a look at the weather in the region. A fresh airstream from the east is affecting the South China coast. And moving on to the satellite images, a rain band is affecting the coastal areas of Guangdong. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. Cloudy with occasional rain and a few thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 19 to 23 degrees. Similar conditions on Friday, with the mercury hitting a high of 25 degrees. Cloud, rain and sunny periods on the weekend. Now for tomorrow's air pollution levels, general stations will be medium to high at 35 to 70. Roadside pollution levels will be high at 65 to 100. Finally, the weather in other cities around the world.
That's the main news for Wednesday night. We'll have an update in an hour. I'm Hailing Chan.
I'm Britton Clennett.
And I'm Belinda Lloyd. Thanks for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, A Weaver's Tale. Singing sensation Francis Yip teamed up with the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra to give you the most unforgettable performance ever. So many classic Cantonese pop songs that will once again melt your heart. Enjoy the special holiday with HKPO and Francis Yip, Diva, tonight at 9. Anyone who attempts to give culture a definition